Now, they say that lighting is extremely important in your videos, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. I mean, how many lights do we have in this studio? One for the background light there, for the window kind of backdrop. Two for the key light. We have two hair lights. We have two apature light strips. We have an apature accent B7C, which is just an accent light for kind of, you can see a little bit of a warm glow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, 8 lights right now? Like, there's so many. Now, the issue is being able to control all of those lights in a seamless way where you're not getting up, getting a ladder to reach the hair lights that we have. And you can see that I actually have it in an app here, and I can just turn my hair light on or off, adjust the intensity, or let's say I even want to change the color.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually pretty crazy.
That's cool.
And I'm doing that all from an app. But check this out. I can even control the main key light that we have right from my phone. So I can turn that off completely. And all of these lights I have control over. So if you take a look at the accent light on your scene, you'll see that I can also turn that on or off. Now, that's just a 100D, so I can only have daylight temperature and just put gels in the Gobo that's connected to it, which is pretty cool. I don't have, RGB control over the 100D, but it's a really cheap light just for an accent like that. Mm-hmm. And the Gobo comes with an accent or colored gels and shapes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think it's really smart to buy into one company, especially if they have an app where you can control everything. Because I know from our perspective, it was like you bought some from this company, some from that company, and then it was like you had to get up and move and adjust all these things. But all these new, lights that are controlled by an app, it's brilliant. Like, I feel like even with the Gobo and having the gels, I mean, if you could afford to get, another RGBW light for that, you could even control what the window light looks like with the Gobo and stuff. So, I just think it's smart to go with one brand because, you can control it all from one app. And I think the even better part is you can set up multiple scenes. So if you're doing a podcast like this, or you have a YouTube channel and you have 2 or 3 different looks, or let's say you only have one set and you need to do a top-down shot, as a how-to video or something, you could basically press one button for a scene and you're set
Good to go.
Yep.
And then another scene when you're back into your podcast setup.
Yep.
Because you're using different lights for different situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, plus you can even get effects like you can get fireworks with the light strip that's behind there.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that with pretty much any light here. Let's just assume that, and this is one of my favorite, and you know this, let's just say I'm in trouble with the law. He's outside waiting for me, and I gotta finish up this podcast before he catches me.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. All of these things come with like the police siren lights, and it's like, have you ever actually used that in a video? No.
I've never used it, but even when you turn it on, it has a pretty cool animation.
Yeah. Or even like my favorite is actually like candlelight or firelight. It just adds a little bit of, variance in the color, which I think is actually kind of cool because a lot of times you see videos and it's like it's constant light all the time. But if you have a little variance in it, especially if you're doing a long form video, maybe not that fast.
Reduce the frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just adds a little bit
effect.
of, warmth or glow to a scene, which is pretty cool.
And some of these lights are literally like this. It's this small. That's what this is doing right now in just the accent light. Mm-hmm. And I'll put it to a fire effect, and it looks like there's a fireplace here, or maybe even a candle. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing is that if I press it, it's going to work. Did it charge?
Maybe
Didn't
not.
charge. That was great. A great demonstration. But it's got power controls here, so you can actually use it from its battery. It's battery powered too. So you can even, for visual effects, you can literally hold it in your hand and maybe put a fireball in your hand. I don't know.
Well, it's almost like the apature MC lights. I mean, you could use it almost in the same, style of those. Those are nice because they're square and you can sit and do that. But, if you have, the ability to plug a light in, plug that in and replace it, and you can change the color temperature for a scene pretty easily.
My favorite part is being practical lights. I love practical lights, especially like in the background of maybe a YouTube setup and you're talking to the camera. You can adjust most of all the brightness, because sometimes just plain old practical lights don't have the ability to adjust the brightness. And sometimes it's too bright or looks too hot in the background. Yep. Being able to adjust the brightness is definitely key.
Well, and you have to be careful too, because we actually tried to just buy some cheap LED lights and put a dimmer on them. It doesn't always work. So, you know, if you can find a light that you can dim with an LED, that's fine. But, you know, having control, and like we talked about, having an app that controls all of your light, it's really cool when you walk in and press one button and everything's set up. It's really cool.
What is that? Did you say you can press one button and they can all turn off? Isn't that pretty cool?
It is.
Just one button and that can turn everything on or off.
Right. I even
Technology.
changed. Yeah, I know. I wish I had this 30 years ago when I started. Well, and honestly, it's becoming more affordable. I mean, if you're an existing business and you've got budgets and you can play with these things, yeah, it's really nice. But for those people who are just trying to get into this kind of stuff, you know, you can't dump $400 into a light or $300 into a light. But, you know, some of this stuff is under $100, you know, and just buy one at a time. But like we said, I would say stick with one brand. You know, we went with Apature. That's not the only company out there, but since we started to invest in that space, we just kept investing in that space, and it's just saved us a lot. You know, just having one app and one ability to change everything.
Because it's also going to save you a lot of time on set, and on set, time is money.
Yeah.
So even though you might be spending a little bit more with Apature, they are a bit of a more of a premium brand. You're still going to save money because they have a really great app. The Sidus Link app is great. You have all of their range. The Amaran lights are Apature as well, and just their mainline Apature works in the Sidus Link app.
Even the big Nova lights, which are amazing too.
Yeah, the Nova, what are they?
Nova C, I think.
Yeah, Apature Nova lights. Those are pretty cool. Those are the RGBW ones.
Yeah.
Those are the big boys.
Yeah, and they blast a lot of light, which is really nice for some things. But I think to your point, I think some people get so concerned with the financial aspect of investing in a light, but they forget the time. And I would say that's the one thing that we've seen tons of value in is like walking in, pressing a button, and you're good to go. You know, it may seem silly, but 3 or 4 minutes, 5-10 minutes getting up, changing lights, sitting down, adjusting it. I mean, if you don't have a whole crew, if you had a crew, it wouldn't matter because that basically replaces your app. But if you're a one-man band, you're going to save a ton of time, which, like you said, time is money.